Parliament Channel 11, also broadcasting on 105.5 FM.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, viewing public. Welcome to the 18th meeting of the Joint Select Committee on Local Authorities, Service Commissions, and Statutory Authorities, including the THA. This morning, the committee will meet officials of the National Lotteries Control Board, NLCB, and the Ministry of Finance. For members of the listening public and the viewing audience, are invited to post or send their comments via the Parliament's various social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. My name is H.R. Ian Roach. I'm the chairman of this committee, and I will invite my other members to introduce themselves, starting on my right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to all, and welcome. Darrell Smith, member.
Good morning, members. Good morning to the members of the public viewing. My name is Khadija Amin, opposition senator.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome. Name is Nigel Freitas, member.
Just to remind members of the viewing public and yourself, the object of this inquiry this morning is to examine the internal control systems within the NLCB, to assess the current arrangements in place to oversee, monitor the operations of the NLCB, and to examine the policy framework for corporate social responsibility of the NLCB. Yeah, pardon me. I will now invite members from the NLCB to introduce yourself, and then the Ministry of Finance.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the Joint Select Committee on Local Authorities, Service Commissions, and Statutory Authorities, including the THA. My name is Marvin John Siller. I'm the chairman of the Board of Directors of the National Lotteries Control Board. To my right is Mr. Michael Jogi. He is Director on Secondment at the NLCB. To my immediate left is Mr. Ricardo Board. He is Deputy Director and longest serving member of staff of NLCB, 36 years. To Mr. Jogi's right is Ms. Leslie Ann John. She is our Chief Accountant. To Mr. Board's left is our internal auditor, Ms. Charlene Lewis. Immediately behind me, you would find Mr. Stafford Wheeler. He's our outreach coordinator. And to my left, back is Ms. Yana Molino. She's our human resources assistant. These are the members of the NLCB team, and we are pleased to have been invited here this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ministry of Finance.
Good morning, Chairman and members. I am Lisa Phillips, Acting Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance.
Good morning, Chairman and members. I'm Lester Herbert, the Director of Central Audit Committee at the Ministry of Finance.
Good morning, Chairman and members. My name is Sita Bidesi, Business Analyst, Acton.
Thank you very much. I will now invite Ms. Lisa Phillips to give a brief opening statement, and I mean brief. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I wish to thank the Joint Select Committee for inviting the Ministry of Finance to participate in this inquiry. The Ministry wishes to emphasize that its goals is to have an effective, accountable, and transparent National Lotteries Control Board, inter alia, through effective monitoring and evaluation of the entity. Therefore, there is therefore great congruence with the work of this Joint Select Committee, and we look forward to implementing the recommendations of the committee. I thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chairman. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the National Lotteries Control Board and the management and staff of NLCB, I would like to thank the committee for the invitation. We look forward to the incisive comments we can get from this exercise, and we intend to implement those suggestions and recommendations that may be forthcoming. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome. Mr. Michael Jogi.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I would like to thank you all for inviting us here, the NLCB team, to partake in this hearing this morning. And whatever you all see that we are lacking in terms of systems, procedures, and how we do business, I would appreciate if you all would point it out so that we could correct it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I do know how many of you all have ever been to a joint select committee. From my records here, this is the first time that the NLCB is coming before a department committee in its 50 years of existence, or 50 plus years of existence.
That is correct, sir.
Right. We will have, following your opening comments, which have just commenced here, we will ask questions. Members will be invited to ask you questions, and we will expect you to provide your answers. To keep them as succinct as possible, because time is of essence. We have a constraint of time this morning, so we like to go through this as much as we can, cover as much ground we can in the space of time that is allotted to us. Okay, so Mr. Smith, would you like to ask the first question?
All right, again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome. Well, of course, I want to start off by asking the question I think is glaring and in a positive sense with regards to the information that you all submitted. Highest ever recorded profitability in the history of the game. $300 million in profit. Kudos and congratulations for you all in that, but I would like to know what was done different. I've heard that when economies are down, sometimes the online games, lottery-type games, sales tend to go up. Not taken away from the work that you all have done over the past few years, but definitely in these circumstances that we're going through economically, to see a company, a government agency, breaking records in profits and in sales. I mean, $2.8 billion in sales for online sales, highest ever, which is fantastic. If you want to just give us a brief description of what you all did different to achieve this fantastic goal.
Good morning, member, Harold Smith. The NLCB is in a very competitive market, our industry. And in 2016, 2017, we would have done new initiatives in terms of to stay competitive against our illegal market, which is growing every day. So what the NLCB would have done in 16, 17 was up its retail expansion at its agent's location. It also would have had a new promotion, what we call the Mega Ball, which had done phenomenal in terms of revenue for us for this year, 16, 17. We also did some work on our other brands like the Instant, but the Mega Ball was our major really impulse in terms of growing the sales from 2.6 to probably 2.963 this year. So those two initiatives would have been the major enhancement in the games, and it would have been the initiatives that the board would have given us, the management team, to perform for 16 and 17.
So it's a combination of increasing your landscape with regards to agents.
Yes,
so
it
I
is.
think 115 new agents is what I saw.
Yes, that's right.
And Mega Ball meaning Playway. That's a promotion that you're on. A Playway is your #1 brand.
Yes, right.
Okay. In terms of lotteries worldwide, as you could see, to expand the vendors physically worldwide, I mean, we always try to benchmark with what, and I know you're contracted with ICT,
IGT,
IG, right, which was formerly GTEC. Is there a system worldwide that they're utilizing phones and online gaming? I know online gaming is still illegal in Trinidad in terms of gambling on the internet. But is that something that you will be looking at in the future as well, in terms of bringing it to the Ministry of Finance or to legislation where we could look at that? Because I mean, everybody has their phone and so on, that could also assist with the expansion.
Yes, it is one of the initiatives we're going to bring forward. We have done some work on it, but one of the earlier initiatives right now would be into the other online initiatives, but mobile phone gaming is one of the initiatives the NLCB is looking into.
For the chairman, Mr. Chancellor, I would like to take you to your report, submitting the responses on page 12 to 15, if you have your submission. Item 6, which is itemized A, B, and C. The question was raised with Section 13 and Section 25(3)(4) of the National Lotteries Act, Chapter 2104 of Section 13 and 25(3)(4) stipulated that the NCB, LCB shall make an annual report of its proceedings, operations, which must be submitted to the Minister and thereafter to Parliament in this regard. Has the NLCB been fulfilling its statutory obligations under Section 13 and 25 of the Act? Your answer is that the NLCB has been fulfilling its statutory obligations under Section 13 and 25 of the Act, right? This is your submission. Is that so? Now, further on in Section B, you said, if the answer be yes, you said, according to the records of the NLCB, 2012 was the last occasion on an annual report was submitted to the Ministry of Finance and or the Parliament as is prescribed by the Act. This will be a far cry from, to me, complying with the requirements of the Act. You further ask the statement of the years 2013, 2017, you said, are being presently reconciled to enable the Audit General to conduct an audit in the shortest possible time of the NLCB, right? You ask also if the answer to A is the negative, please explain why the board has failed to fulfill its legal obligation to report to the Minister of Finance and to Parliament, and your answer was not applicable. I disagree with that. It is very applicable, so I would like to have an answer.
Thank you very much for the question. I think it is appropriate that the answer be given by our Chief Accountant, Ms. Leslie and John.
Mr. Chairman, in 2013, the financial controller that we had at that time left and would have prepared up to 2009. In 2014, we had another financial controller who also left and would have prepared up to 2012. In late 2015, we got another financial controller who left in 2016 and was responding to the management letters that was issued by the Auditor General. And 2 months ago, we just received another financial controller who is currently responding to those management letters and to bring 13 to 17 up to date so that we could have it for audit.
But tell me something, why is there seem to be this rapid turnover of a financial controller? Is that the cause for the reports not being up to date?
Yes, sir.
That is the sole cause of it?
That is the main cause of it, yes.
Okay. So why is it that a financial controller cannot be kept continuously employed at the NLCB?
I would like to transfer that question to my HR manager.
Good morning, Chairman.
Good morning.
The position of a financial controller is a contract position under our establishment, and we have constraints in terms of the remuneration that we can offer because the terms and conditions would be set by the CPO. The requirements of the position would be ACCA qualified, 5 years management experience, and so on. And the salary the last salary that CPO would have set was around 18.5. So there was a difficulty in persons coming on, we getting qualified persons to come on and stay any length of time with us.
So the challenge really being is a matter of remuneration,
Yes.
inadequate.
Inadequate, yes.
And has recommendation been made to the board to address that?
The board, because the position is contract, the board's hands are tied in terms of what they can add to the package.
Chairman, could you assist us further?
The board has been constrained over the years in terms of getting the required competencies within the NLCB, particularly at the level of the financial controller. It is a difficult position to attract, bearing in mind the level of compensation that is on offer. We have, since October, been able to acquire the services of a qualified financial professional.
With how many years' experience?
20+ years of experience. And that financial controller is now addressing the backlog in a significant way to include dedicated staff at NLCB to ensure that our financial statements are brought up to par. It was as a result of the difficulty in attracting an ACCA qualified financial controller, but we have since done that.
Sorry. That's the financial statement. Well, what about the annual reports?
The annual report forms part of the package that includes the financial statements.
So are you all up to date with the annual reports?
Well, one couldn't go without the other. Both the financial statements for each of the years would be accompanied with an annual report. So in the absence of the financial statements for the years outstanding, those annual reports have not been submitted.
Ms. Amin?
Chairman, first of all, I think it's very misleading that the board would have found it necessary to indicate that they are compliant based on the extract you just read from your report, when in fact we only have up to 2012. The purpose of the committee is for transparency as a state agency for the public to know what's going on. So I trust that that was the only area that you would have been misleading in your report, and that there are not other areas that we should scrutinize to see whether you're truthful or not. However, I'm happy we are discussing it now. And my question to you, having indicated that you now have a person on board, is that you are compliant up to 2012. We are in 2017. How long do you anticipate that this new person will be able to get you up to date in terms of providing your reports to the minister and to the parliament for as current as possible?
Through the chairman, may I ask the chief accountant to respond, please?
Member, we expect that with the dedicated staff that we have allocated towards the project, as well as the financial controller that we have on board, we expect that within at least 8 to 9 months that we should be able to respond to the 2010 to 2012 financial statements, as well as at least bring from 13 to 15 current up to date.
My fellow colleague here on this side had commended you all this morning on the increase, I think you said, in profitability. But how do you reconcile what I'm going to read here from your report? On page 8 of 15, item Roman numerics 11, you said the review of the economy 2016 stated that there has been a drastic decline in profits from fiscal year 2013 to 2016. Provide the factors that would have accounted for this decline. And in your response, you said, to this aggressive competition from the illegal operation, NCB implemented marketing strategies which resulted in the following, right? How do you reconcile what Member Smith was just asked and what is stated here?
Chairman?
Yes.
The report here states from 2013 to 2016 there was a drastic decline, but I think the drastic decline was only probably in 2014-15. And you will see from 2013 it grew to 15-16 and then to 17. What happened in 2014 to 15 was that the same retail expansion, we only had expansion of, I believe, 25 or so agents in that year, right? And the expansion really picked up from 16 into 17. So the expansion, with expansion, you have growth and you have sales. In 14-15, there was little expansion of our agents' location terminals. So it was really, if you look at 13-14, 14-15 would have gone down, and then you will see another increase again from 15 straight up to 17. All right? So I believe the year 14-15 is really the only year there where the sales would have dropped from 2.5 to 2.1 million.
Yeah. In terms of the audit, I know y'all, the organization that you work with y'all, the online side of it, I know it's a pinpoint accuracy with regards to accounting with sales, with the technology that they have, sales and commission and so on and so forth. So the issues that we have had with auditing before, I mean, I think out of most companies in Trinidad and Tobago, they would love to have a system like that, where they could recover revenue and so on as easily as that. So that's not part. But the issues with the audit and that they may have been having, is it that it has to be with the expense and recurrent side of things? Because when you're doing accounting, it's two sides, there's revenue and expenses and stuff. So you all may have been having or have been having challenges with regards to recurrent and expenses, getting that aspect of it done. Is that what, going back to the first question, the second question?
I will pass that to our Chief Accountant, Ms. Leslie Anjan. Thanks.
Member, no, the issue of the audit would be the fact that we don't have, we cannot seem to keep a financial controller more than 1 year. And because of that, our accounts is not up to date for audit.
Chairman, I am understanding the position of Ms. John, the Chief Accountant, because even now, I know you're not up to date. You can't really totally rely on the figures that are available until they are properly done. And this accountability has become an issue in the public domain recently, whereas you may have good numbers based on your online sales records for your revenue. What has become a point of scrutiny is your spending and how you are spending your state agency and how you are spending state money. We have had reports in the media, for instance, of thousands of dollars being spent for private security for I think, the chairman, because there were some death threats. We also had issues with misconduct for directors. And those are the issues I think the public would want to hear about in terms of you accounting for your spending of state funds, while in other areas for critical resources and government services, you have had cuts. So I want to ask you, having regard to those things that are in the public domain and a number of other issues that may not yet be in the public domain with regards to your spending, what sort of internal controls are you looking at to examine those issues where you have spending on, for instance, security for the chairman, but you can't keep a financial officer? You know, how do you weigh those things? And have you examined the internal controls you have or you may have to put in place to get those things aligned?
What we have in place is that our director has our internal controls that we have, the internal controls that we have is that the director could approve from 25,000 and below. Our management tenders committee approves from 25,001 to 150,000. Our tenders committee approves from 150,001 and upwards. We also have our internal audit department that monitors what the transactions, as well as we prepare our monthly financial statement, which gauge the amount of money that we make and spend.
Mr. DeFreitas.
Good morning again. I'm listening to the questions and the answers that we've been getting so far. And one of the things that I'm getting is that the issue with the financial controller is the ability to keep an individual in that position. And I think you said it was because of remuneration, and it may not be in keeping with what is expected based on what is needed for the position right now. But then I'm also hearing that sales would have gone up in the last fiscal year. And I'm wondering if the simple solution is, as was stated earlier, to increase the remuneration for that post. I guess my question is, if you have increased sales, why hasn't the board dealt with that problem, given that you've been saying for most of the morning so far that you know what the problem is? You can't keep a financial controller because the position isn't paid enough. But here you're saying on the other end that the actual company is increasing in sales. What I'm saying in a nutshell is if you're making more money, why not just pay or increase the package from the board level and then solve that problem altogether?
Thank you very much for the inquiry and the correlation you're making between our success and our inability to attract the kind of human capital that we need. The NLCB, and by extension the Board of Directors, the NLCB as an institution is a statutory authority. It is classified as a statutory authority. And the terms and conditions of employment are set by the Statutory Authorities Services Commission. They themselves, that organization, is constrained in terms of the kinds of emoluments on offer in respect of attracting the type of talent that is required at NLCB. NLCB is a $2.9 billion sales organization, and we are staffed by public servants whose remuneration is defined by the CPO, and as a result of the delay in the conclusion of certain collective agreements, we have had to pay dated salaries, literally, in respect of acquiring the talent. So we cannot simply, the board has made every effort through its contract arrangements and through its service provision arrangements to acquire the talent that is needed. But in view of the constraints set by the existing compensation arrangements, it is very, very difficult, as well as our governance structure. As I said, we are a statutory authority. We report to the Ministry of Finance. Yes, we are a corporate entity, but we can't simply get up one morning and change the compensation. We have to go through the SASC.
Yeah, I understand that, and I thank you for that. But what, probably Mrs. Phillip, what is the Ministry of Finance dealing with this? How is the Ministry of Finance dealing with it? Are you aware of it, of the constraints?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, I am aware of the constraints in terms of the remuneration, but again, we are constrained by having to submit to the Ministry, to the Human Resource Advisory Committee to get their approval for salaries.
So therefore, you're not able to attract the best of talents available necessarily. So
it's a pervasive problem.
Yeah.
But hold on, and before you go, I just want to take you back when I had asked earlier on about the decline in the revenue, the profits from 2016. You said you had answered and said to address aggressive competition from the illegal operators. Who are illegal operators?
Illegal operators, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Boone. Illegal operators will be those operators who are operating outside of the NLCB and who also do playway, what we used to call way long ago, who operate as normal as if they are legally. They're not sanctioned by the NLCB, but they offer higher odds on our games, on our numbers that are played daily. They offer higher odds. They are not sanctioned. They are not licensed by the NLCB.
So what you say is online. This is an online story. So this is something you used to go in the backyard and you throw some dice or you call numbers. Is this something that you're speaking about?
Chairman is no longer in the backyard again. Chairman, it's now in the open where you can go down and see a location marked 35 to 1, 33 to 1. They are not legal operators. The only NLCB legal operators is where you see our NLCB sign. The illegal operators are operating on a daily basis.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I am familiar with what the Deputy Director is describing. And yes, there are a number of places, business places, as well as private individuals who continue to operate the traditional way. And while I appreciate your drive to get these unlicensed operators, you call them, regularized, I think that I don't want to call it an illegal trade. That traditional way, I think, will continue to thrive if we continue to have these issues at NLCB in terms of people not complying and so on, right? But, Mr. Chairman, I want to kind of go back to the Ministry of Finance, where you have these challenges with staff and the retention of your Chief Financial Officer, your accountability. The Statutory Authority Service Commission is responsible for the staff of NLCB. And it was reported that the Minister of Finance stated that the government was moving to repeal the SASC Act and to abolish the SASC and part of it was in the discussions about the failure to send 2 of the NLCB managers who were named in some, I think it was, they were indicted on some charges of misconduct. But the minister was indicating that the SASC had failed to send these 2 managers on leave, and that actually had an impact, a delay on the initiation of an audit by the Ministry of Finance in relation to these alleged improprieties at the NLCB. My question is that still the intention of the Ministry of Finance to abolish the SASC and therefore move to have other options for recruitment of staff and for accountability specific to the NLCB, but of course it will affect all the other statutory authorities?
Through you, Chair. Yes, sorry to say, I'm not aware that the Minister, or what is the present position of the Minister of Finance with respect to the Statutory Authority Service Commission.
Sorry, what?
Yes, I'm not aware whether he intends to abolish the Service Commission or not. I'm not aware what's the current position of the Minister of Finance.
Okay. Look, if I can take you back to page 4 of page 15 of your submission again. If you look at item R, the board conceptualized and introduced a pay for results and management performance management system from managerial staff. What exactly is that? Could you explain what is that and how it operates? Is this a sort of a mechanism to assist in the non-attractiveness of the financial package?
The performance management system, pay for results management system, was introduced to the organization by myself to the board 2 months ago. It was intended to be an incentive program for 1 year for the management staff in order to incentivize them on one hand, and on the other hand, to provide an attractive compensation package for potential new recruits to the position of manager at NLCB. It has not been implemented.
It has not?
No, it has not been implemented.
Because from what you're saying, that would become, to me, I mean, I know you're trying to be creative, but that would be circumventing the CPO.
Well, in hindsight, we have put it on the back burner because we believe that more discussions would be necessary in respect of a concept like that. And bearing the challenging economic times, we thought it wise to put that concept on the back burner, in spite of the fact that we believe it is necessary to attract the kinds of talent that we require at NLCB.
Just a minute. What is the total complement of staff at the NLCB? I know you have permanent, you have contract, and you have what's part temporary and thing. What is the total complement of staff?
Through the chair, I would want Ms. Molino to respond.
Huh? Yes.
Okay, we currently have 81 members of staff, and that includes LASCSA, which falls into two categories. We have permanent and temporary. We have contract and short-term arrangements as well.
On staff, yeah.
Yes?
Yes, we do.
Is it a standardized contract per se, or is it an individualized type of contracting of these contract workers? In terms of, for instance, let me just go, in terms of the number of years they're contracted for example?
The contracts that we have are generally 3-year contracts for which we would have to apply to the Ministry of Finance for approval, which goes to the Cabinet, and once we have gotten that approval, it then goes to the CPO for terms and conditions to be set. And these positions would be, most of them are technical positions that would have been created as a result of our online games.
And the CPO will set the enumeration as well?
Yes.
Ms. Amin?
My question is whether the senior managers and executive managers, if they also fall under the SCSC, or if they are provided if the board provides the terms and conditions for them.
The board would have provided terms and conditions for those positions, because currently some of those positions would have been under the arrangement, previously under the arrangement of contracts. However, we have not had approval from cabinet approval since 2013, and we're not supposed to recruit any persons unless we have the approvals. And in light of that, the board have taken a decision to bring on those persons in a service provider sort of arrangement.
So you do in fact have persons employed who have not received cabinet approval?
Yes, we do. But these would have been reoccurring. These persons have been with us, in some instances, 20 years, moving on contracts in the same position.
Would it be possible, Mr. Chairman, through you, to request like the remuneration packages of the members? Well, I want to start from the board, but the directors, the senior managers, the executives, and so on. If you could provide the remuneration for those. And I really want to ask not only the approved ones. Oh. Right. But Mr. Chairman, what I wanted to go is that there are a number of approved, in terms of the approved remuneration, but then we have been getting a lot of reports of arrangements outside of that. And that is what I really would like us to get to, because we're having the list of your approved remuneration package is one, but where the board has discretion or has been taken a privilege to give yourselves additions to your packages. That is what I'm concerned about.
All right.
There are contracts, or there are contract workers who have been hired, but their contracts are not approved by cabinet. This is what you are getting at. Could you answer that, Mr. Chairman? Additional. Yes.
The established positions are where they give additional benefits outside of what is approved.
First of all, is that so?
There are different categories of staff at the NLCB.
Mr. Chairman, first, is that what Mrs. Amin is saying? Is that the fact? Is that a fact?
That they are service.
The board does have some discretion, and we would have had reports of arrangements being made outside of what is the approved remuneration in terms of benefits and so on. That is what I really would like us to explore, where the board would have, let's say in the last year or two, given approval for what could be considered remuneration to anyone from director go down to managers or members of staff, whether it is extra traveling, extra telephone, extra security, anything like that?
That is not correct.
That is not correct. But
That is not
would you
correct.
tell us, share with us, what is your position?
The staff of the NLCB are categorized as permanent SASE staff assigned by SASE, contract staff, and temporary staff. The board may engage from time to time, and this has been the practice prior to our tenure, of engaging hard-to-get talent via a service provision contract. And we have simply followed the service provision arrangement to retain some of the scarce talent, particularly at the level of the financial controller. So all of the practices have been in place prior to this board's tenure in respect of temporary, permanent, contract, and service providers. Those are the categories of staff that are recruited at the NLCB.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm watching here on page 14 where you all discuss the money disbursed by NLCB for sponsorship and donation for the past 10 years. There's two questions in it. Is there a formula that you all utilize for that, similar to the Sports and Culture Fund, which is a percentage of sales that goes to sport and culture to the Office of the Prime Minister? The reason why I'm asking is, while we would have had the best year in sales, we only saw that you all gave out $28 million this fiscal year gone. However, in 2014-2015, which was before your time, an election year, which we saw a trend with a number of other state agencies, we saw the highest ever, $37 million being given out in 2014-2015. When you compare it to the last election year, 2009-2010, it was only 12. So just for a fact, I know that you all have a formula and a percentage for sport and culture. Is there a formula or a policy with regards to your sponsorship and donations? And why was there such a big spike in the election year 2014-2015?
Through the chair, I would like to ask Mr. Stafford Wheeler, our outreach coordinator, to respond.
Sure.
Thank you, Chairman. Member, during the period 2014-2015, the current sitting board was not in place. And at that time, there were several approvals done by the then board to the tune of $37+ million, as you see there.
That based on a policy? As the minister is asking.
Is there a percentage or a formula, just like the sports and culture, or is it the board's directions for you all just at that particular year, election year, to almost 10 million more than this year, which was a record year this year? So it's
there was an allocation based on draft estimates. Each year there would be an allocation. Our chief accountant would be able to speak to the exact percentage, which we represent a percentage of sales. However, the allocation at the time would have been $30,878,000.
But I'm not getting clear now. I don't know if I'm a bit slow. But is it that is based on a policy percentage? I mean, is there a policy that whatever year, whatever it is, 10% or 5% will be given? What will account for the difference between?
The answer to the question is no. The policy does not provide a percentage of sales to speak to NLCB's philanthropy.
So is there discretion then?
This will come from the board's directive?
The board approves all sponsorships, yes.
So in 2014-15 election year, the board approved $37 million, the highest ever in the last 10 years, to distribute.
That's correct.
Can I get in the period of time when this money was given for that fiscal year? In terms of that $37 million, what period of that fiscal year was that money channeled? Fiscal year?
With your permission, member, I'd like to get the opportunity to provide that to you at a later date.
Sure.
Can we, Mr. Chairman, I want to ask if we could have that extended to the present date.
Yes.
Yeah, to present?
But I think, sorry, I'm being told that you all have supplied that information here already. It's in our records here. Yes, here is appendix, what is appendix 6? Appendix 5, 6, and 7. So we can look at it. But can I ask, it said at, on page 7 of 15, beginning with what percentage of the NLCB's budgets are allocated to recurrent expenditure, including salaries and allowances? And I think the answer is 89%. Isn't that kind of high? And if it's kind of high, first of all, and if so, is this in keeping with the industry standards? Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I ask that this question be answered by our Chief Accountant?
Sure.
Chair, no, this figure is not high because our recurrent expenditure, the highest paying expenditure would be our money for prizes.
Your what?
Money for prizes. This is where all the games that has been won, when they come to the NLCB to change the check, this is all the payments that they would have won would have been in the recurrent expenditure. And that is, let me just get it for you, please.
While you're doing that, Chairman, what she's looking at that, I just got the information here, and it's showing that. Yeah.
Yes?
Yes, Chair. The money for prizes actually captures 70% of your sales.
70% of the 89?
Yes.
Okay, I see. And that is standard in the industry?
Standard within the NLCB, yes.
No, not necessarily the NLCB, the industry, the lotteries industry. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Comparative?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, just looking through here briefly, you could see that there is a polarization of money distributed June, July, August, September. Majority of that $37 million was around that time, 2015. So that's why I was asking if it's a policy or if it's the board instructions to give out this money to these large amounts. The board at the time. All right, but it's cleared up here to me. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, now I want to continue on the issue of the policy with regards to sponsorship. The gentleman indicated that there is no policy with regards to a percentage of the profits to be used for sponsorship. But certainly, I would expect the board would have some kind of policy. Is there any policy at all in existence? And have you made any attempts to put one in place?
Thank you very much for the question. There is, in fact, a policy in respect of outreach. The term sponsorship has been literally retired. And Mr. Wheeler, again, through the chair, can elaborate on the sponsorship policy, outreach policy.
It's in Appendix 5. It's applied in Appendix 5. Yeah. Yes, it's here with us.
Mr. Chair.
Sure. Mr. Freitas.
So I'm listening, and I just want to get clarification on certain things. So you're indicating that 70% of the earnings is paid out recurrently in relation to prize money that you need to pay out, is winnings. Do you all do any tracking at all over the years, or do you all have data over the years to see how that has shifted? So in other words, for the last 5 years, would it have moved from 60 to 70? Has it been 70 for the last 5 years?
Yes, member. In 2016, the percentage payout was 71%. In 2017, it was 70%. If I go back to (2015), okay, I did not work out the figure for 2015. But between 2016 and 2017, it would have moved from 71% to 70%.
71 to 78 or 70? I didn't hear that last part properly.
I found it. In 2015, the percentage payout was 70%. In 2016, the percentage payout was 71%. And in 2017, the percentage payout was 70%.
So the next question I have on that is in relation to the legal playway and the 10% tax that is being proposed in relation to the legal playway. What does the board, or what can the board do in relation to reducing the illegal playway activity in the country so that you don't end up taxing those that are engaging in legal playway and then having that shift to the legal playway in order to beat that tax?
Thank you for the question. The board is aware of the threat of the illegal operators. And the more we expand, the more we promote our games, it's the more competition we're getting from an illegal fringe. We can do 2 or 3 things. We have increased our public awareness campaign in terms of the fact that illegal gaming is in fact illegal. We have done that through a series of radio and television advertisements. We have collaborated with the authorities. Mr. Jogi can elaborate on that in respect of the police and authorities to deal with the illegal players outside there. And we have also not thrown our hands up in the air. We have confronted our competition. We are expanding our gaming content. We are expanding our network to deal with that ever-present threat. But to be more precise, it's the authorities who can treat with those illegal gamers.
As any police?
That's correct, the police.
The integrity of online gaming is the draw, right? There are a lot of people who talk about the man in the machine and so on, and let's set the game and so on and so forth. The draw worldwide, if that is broken, the game is dead. I remember the draw being hosted at TTT and CNMG, the government station, where it was open to the public. Some locations actually have it in a glass bubble at their NLCB version or National Lottery where the public could see it live at the office. Something strange happened under the last board where for some reason the draw was moved to a private home or private residence. Do you want to shed, anybody could shed some light with regards to that, and if all the rules and regulations were followed for that, and what is the price? Is it more than what it was costing before to host the draw at the government station?
Under the last board, they did have a contract with through our provider to operate our draws through a company called Media 21. It was a decision taken by the last board and not this current board, right? There is a contract signed with the provider right now in terms of the televising of the draws.
No, I don't think you understood what Mr. Member Smith is asking. So I will ask him to answer the question in a certain way again.
What was the reason for that shift? And 2, what is the difference in cost to the taxpayer for that shift?
All right, in cost, I'll have to get back those numbers to you. I don't have it on me presently. But the reason for the shift, I can't say what was the reason for the shift because it was a board decision made by the previous board.
And was the board advised by the NLCB and or the vendor with regards to how important the draw is with regards to the integrity of the game?
Yes, the board was advised. The integrity, we still have, the integrity of the game is still there. It's just that we have moved from under CNMG to a private provider now. But the integrity, our draws are all right up to the highest integrity.
So just following on from what Member Smith is asking, what obtained before when this NLCB came into existence in 1968, right? And you had it being drawn, from my recollection, on television, yes? And that went on until well into the 2000s or something like that. Yeah? You must have minutes from your board. What will have caused that to move from a government control thing to whatever contractual engagement you all have now sought? And is that still the position, or it has now reverted to the government entity again, like CMG, whatever it is, television or?
Chairman, no, it hasn't reverted to the government entity. As I said, there is a contract with the present provider to televise the draws as it is present now.
Who is the present contract?
Media 21 is our provider who does our draw in Maraval.
Is that costing NCBL more than if it was being managed by the government entity?
I will have to get back those figures here right now, so I don't have them in front of me. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, could you assist us in that would be a decision being made by the board, right? Well, whatever board, this board or the former board, and there will be minutes to have recorded that. What is the position?
I would expect that minutes would be there to reflect the decision-making at the time and the basis for the decision-making to relocate the televised draw from CNMG to that new location. I'm sure it's there in the minutes.
Yeah, so what I'm getting at, what I think the members are getting at, in terms of costs, you mean you're using money efficiently in these lean times, right? So you have a government entity. What would have been causing would have been the cost to the government entity as opposed to this new private entity? And if you are a board, whatever it was enacted by the former board, you are now a new board, you'll be looking to see where you're getting the best thing for your money, right? So is it something you will just continue carte blanche, or you will have had an opportunity to re-examine it and see whether this is a good practice or something to revert back to something, or establish something else new? Why don't the CB can't probably set up their own thing and do it as a matter of fact then, and keep it in-house?
We have examined the contractual relationship that our service provider has with the media house. It is a solid contract. To break the contract or instruct that the contract be determined may have significant implications, cost implications. There is 1.5 years remaining in the contract.
How much?
1.5 years.
Remaining?
Remaining. The board has reviewed the contract details, and it is our intention to ensure, going down the road, that the live draws be done at a more economical venue and more at a reasonable cost.
So what is the present cost at this point in time?
I do not have the figures before me, but those figures can be made available.
Sorry?
Those figures can be made available to the committee.
Sorry, Mr. DeFreitas.
Yes, I have a couple of questions in relation to the line of questioning that the minister would have raised. How long was the contract for in total? You said how long you have left, but how long was the contract for in total from the time it was signed?
The contract was signed in 2014.
2014, okay. And in your opinion, has that move to a private entity made the draw more secure or less secure?
I would say our draws are always secure in terms of there are certain requirements for our draw to take place, and the draw is secured right now. So we don't have it's not a question of whether it's secure or not. It's once the place, the location is capable of hosting the draw, we have certain guidelines and security features we must put into the draw before it takes place, which our provider is presently doing.
Meeting. So that was going to lead to my next question in terms of what kind of mechanism have been put in place to ensure that the draw is not compromised. And by compromise, I mean that it's not intercepted, that you can predict the outcome to the benefit of someone else. Yeah, that's what I mean by security. I'm not talking about the security of the individuals who are doing the draw, but the security of the information and the predictability of what is happening, because it's now a private entity and therefore it's not under the control of the NLCB. How do you know if something untoward is happening there? Do you have mechanisms in place to keep checking that?
Yes, member. Before any draw takes place, there are pre-draws. We have certain security features in terms of our ball cases, which we also have auditors in our draw, external auditors. We have presiding officers. We have draw integrity officers who preside at the draw. Pre-draws must take place. For the playway, we must take 5 pre-draws before any draw is taking place, and meaning that 5 numbers will be drawn. Any number that is drawn twice, I believe 3 times, the case will be discarded and a new case will be taken on by our external auditors. So there are measures in place to ensure that the draw is the integrity of the draw is taking place.
Mr. Jogi, is it? Director. Yeah. Let me ask you this. If you look at page 2 of 15 of the same report that we have been speaking about this morning, item 4 asks, provide details of the committees, subcommittees of the board of the NLCB appointed in accordance with Section 7 of the National Lotteries Act, Chapter 2104. And I see listed here, 1, 2, 3, 4 committees, right? The Human Resource Committee, the 50th Anniversary Planning Committee, Marketing Outreach Committee, Procurement Committee. But then you go on in the active, to ask for there's an Audit Committee, which to me is a critical and essential committee to have among the complements of committees that's required by Section 7. And apparently, there's no audit committee, no active audit committee, a fundamental thing like that, which will help supervise and keep some of the questions that are being asked. This is financial stewardship, financial scrutiny, to me, alive and being properly monitored. Why there is not an active audit committee at this point in time?
Chairman, I think this question should be directed to the Chairman, Mr. John-Silla.
Thank you very much. There is no audit committee of the board at the present time because of the constraints in terms of the number of members of the board. We have 4.
Mr. Chairman, can I just stop you there a second?
Sure.
You said there's no audit committee, right?
Yes.
Was there an audit committee before you came in, before you assumed chairmanship?
I believe so, yes.
No. You believe so?
Yes.
You don't know?
I am told that there was an audit committee of the board prior to this board.
All right. And who would have made the decision to abandon that audit committee?
I do not believe a decision was taken to abandon the audit committee.
So it just went into disuse?
The audit committee, at this point in time, the members of the board do not have the appropriate expertise to sit on an audit committee. All of the other members of the board, there are 3 other members, Ms. Ria Joseph, Ms. Christine
Okay,
Meekin.
let me read this to you. This is your reporter. On page 3 of page 15, at the head of it is that currently there is no active audit committee. The committee was active up to September 2015, but was discontinued under the current board of directors. Was discontinued. So this is not something passive. This is an active decision to discontinue something. It didn't fall in disuse. It was discontinued. This is your report. But what you're telling me here is not according with this. So could you explain, please?
Well, the audit committee of the board was not, again, discontinued.
But then you have, this report is not an active report. This is the second time I'm seeing something here written, and it's not reflecting what you are telling us. So what your written evidence, we will say, in other words, and what your oral evidence is not complementing each other. So there's a discrepancy.
I accept the discrepancy, Mr. Chairman, but there is no audit committee of the board in existence.
But do you agree that an audit committee is the essential of all the committees required under Section 7?
It is critical. It is the most critical. I concur.
So what is being done, as opposed to, I'm seeing, and what caught my attention here is on the second committee, the 50th Anniversary Planning Committee. Is that still active?
It is still active.
But why would that be active? N50, how old is the NLCB? LLCB?
49 years.
49 years. So the activity is to celebrate this next.
To acknowledge and recognize and celebrate the achievement of the NLCB for 50 years.
For 50 years. And you put that as more important than an audit committee?
I didn't say that.
No, I'm asking. I know you didn't say that.
It is not more important than an audit committee of the board.
So therefore, I mean, this should be attended to with some dispatch now to correct this.
I agree with you, sir.
Okay. Ms. Amin, you want to ask something?
Mr. Chairman, I am concerned about the number of discrepancies between the written report and the verbal information being given here. And now we had to heavily take this report with a heavy dose of salt. And this is why I want to ask perhaps the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance, because you do have a certain amount of control or ability to direct the NLCB and their policies, their policies. Earlier I asked about the sponsorship policy, and it was submitted to the committee. However, my concern is that there are no requirements for companies being sponsored by the NLCB to be registered with the Ministry of the Legal Affairs, the Attorney General and Legal Affairs, in accordance with the Companies Act. That led to some directors being in hot water over giving sponsorship to companies that were not registered. You also, in your policy, it does not prohibit employees of NLCB or relatives of employees from benefiting from sponsorship. So, and there are records of employees who have collected large amounts in terms of sponsorship. You spoke about there being no fixed percentage of your profits that you are allowed to give to, towards the sponsorship. And without these guidelines in terms of your beneficiaries of the sponsorship, I want to ask the ministry if you have any authority to intervene with regards to these policies and who can get and who the people who have been benefiting, or the companies or entities that would have gotten approval for funding based on the weaknesses of this of the policies, the existing policy.
Yes, through you, Chair. The minister has authority to give general and specific directions to the NLCB. As such, in 1995, an approval was granted to provide some parameters for the NLCB in terms of its sponsorship policy. However, that fell into abeyance. We have since reactivated it, and it's before the minister now to have some parameters with respect to their sponsorship.
But is there, as far as under Section 10 of the National Lotteries Act, Chapter 2104, the minister, in the exercise of his functions, powers, and duties under this Act or any other written law, the board shall act in accordance with any special or general directions given to it by the minister. As far as directives concerning what Member Amin has just asked, does the board have a register of the directions or such direction the minister would have given concerning those things or not? The board, yes. You will have received directions from the minister.
General directions in terms of the operations of the NLCB?
Yeah, you will have, you will have a register with that or something?
We don't have a register, but there would be records. Of the minister's general and specific directions.
All right. Now, just to take you back to same page 3 of the report, I had asked about, you had asked about the discrepancies and so forth that were identified. And you said a compliance of any discrepancies or breaches in the operations of the NLCB, which are identified by the Audit Committee over the past 3 years. He said, under the last audit committee, the following discrepancies pertaining to 2014-2015 were identified. And they are 1, 2, 3. You have a copy of it. So you're following me. So the accounting issue, you had the unauthorized social and media accounts, stock inventory. Now, what is being done about it, or what has been done about those things?
Through the chair, may I have the internal auditor respond?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, these issues were addressed to that would have been the past board of directors through the audit committee concerning whether these issues have been addressed. I think the officers in charge of implementation are the ones that should address this at this time. The vote book. My function is a reporting function.
So is that person here today with us?
I would like the accountant, the chief accountant, maybe could address this issue if these issues have been addressed.
Chair, all these issues have already been addressed.
How have they been addressed? What have you done?
The accounting issues with the vote book have been regularized. Our filing system has been redone in order of the votes that are within the estimates, and we have been locating our invoices, filing our invoices in accordance to the votes rather than the check numbers.
And what about the stock inventory?
I cannot speak about that now because I'm not really sure what the stock inventory is about.
So therefore, again, you see, that is not what you're just telling me, and what you are telling me here now is not in sync at all. So, what was the problem with the stock inventory? Do you know?
No, sir.
Anybody knew what was the problem with the stock inventory?
Yes, Mr. Chair. When the audit was done at the time, it was found that a lot of stock remained to be expired. So what was being done is that the last in stock were being used first. Last in, first out, instead of first in, last out in the other. So, you know what I mean? So these issues were, and besides that aspect of the stock, the record keeping, the issue of stock, it was not being, it was not accurate. There was some difficulty with balancing the stock because the distribution of the stock was not properly recorded at the time. So I think some attempt was made with the last audit that we did, but it's still not perfect. But some attempt was made to address it, but there's still a lot of work to be done. That is speaking from the last audit that was done at the end of the financial year, ending September 2017.
Now, this stock will be incorporate what?
Well, it would be stationary stock and...
because you said expiry, expiry. What will expire? Yeah. Is that a food chain?
Yes, because of the meetings and that are held at the board at the National Lotteries, there would be stock such as juice and different...
Oh, it is food items then?
Yes, there are food items because of meetings that we would have. Food items would be purchased for meetings, for meeting purposes. So those stocks, they were not being used last, and, they were not being used in the order that it should have. So stock was being, stock remained, to be expired and were expired. So that is the food stock that we would have as part of the inventory, yes.
This is a bit disquieting, eh? It is disquieting to hear this. Mr. Fraser?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to ask, as much as the board indicated that they will rectify that situation with the audit committee, was the Ministry of Finance aware that there was not another audit committee operating? And what do they intend to do to ensure that that audit committee is set up?
Well, we were not aware until this inquiry came up and we saw the response, and we immediately wrote to National Lotteries asking an explanation for the absence of an audit committee. So we await their response in terms of.
But I think you got, I guess, a partial response today where they indicated the expertise was not present in relation to the audit committee. What do you have to say to that?
Yeah, well, our recommendation will have to be made to the minister, possibly to change or to include that expertise on the board.
Just for our information, when was this request made by the Ministry of Finance to the board, and did they get a deadline, and what is that deadline?
They weren't given a deadline, and the request was made earlier in November.
Mr. Chairman, I also wanted, this is to the Ministry of Finance, perhaps you could provide some guidance. It was brought to our attention in the public domain that a senior member of the board approved ex gratia payments for an SA, the Service Commission staff member, management, for $44,000 2 months ago, and another member of staff, and as well as another service provider that the board had hired also received ex gratia payments in March of 2017. The SASC Act doesn't provide for the board to make those type of payments. I don't know what authority the NLCB, the board, would have made those type of payments. And I want to ask you, in terms of the Ministry of Finance, in terms of I don't want to use the word legality, but in terms of what authority the board has to make those type of payments to staff, to service providers, and to particularly staff of the SASC.
I imagine such a payment should have come to the Ministry of Finance for approval. We were not, however, aware that a payment was made in this regard.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if the board could perhaps send some written information on that, provide the committee with written information on that.
Yeah, could you give us an undertaking that you will provide further clarification on the issue that is being raised here by member?
Yes, we would, Mr. Chairman. We are making that commitment.
Mr. Chair, I have one other issue with regards to staffing and understanding the role of the SASC. There is a position called Secretary of the Board, which is an established position by the Statutory Authority Service Commission. However, there was a contract position of Secretary of the Board that was created. I don't know if the minister would have had to give that approval, but the fact that a position called Secretary of the Board exists in the SACC, in the establishment, it means that you cannot provide a similar position by contract. So for the board to create this position, I think, and my question is with regard is what circumstances would have allowed you to make this hire on exception, because you do have such a position on the establishment, and if the CPO would have given approval to that, and what are the terms and conditions? Who would have determined the terms and conditions for this contract position?
A question for HR.
I would prefer to take that question, Mr. Chairman.
Please, go ahead.
Contrary to what has been provided to Member Amin, the position of Secretary of the Board is not an SASC position, established position. You may be referring to the position of Secretary to the Board. That's the SASC established position. There is a position called Secretary or Secretary of the Board as established by the National Lotteries Control Act. And the position of Secretary of the Board was created with the enactment of that National Lotteries Control Act of 1968. The requisite procedures and permission was sought from the Minister of Finance, as is required as per the Act, in the appointment of the position or appointment of an incumbent to the position of Secretary of the Board.
Yeah, thank you.
But certainly the position, I mean, you can't take both separately. So my question is that you do in fact now have a Secretary of the Board and a Secretary to the Board. One is an SASC position and one is established by your Act?
That is correct. The Secretary of the Board, otherwise known as the Corporate Secretary, provides the legal and statutory support to the Board of Directors of NLCB.
And who determines the terms and conditions of that position?
It was a board-appointed position. The terms and conditions were submitted for the review and approval of the Minister of Finance.
This is probably done.
And you would have advertised and conducted interviews for this position?
That position was not advertised. Interviews were conducted. Evaluations were made on the basis of resumes in the possession of the NLCB, and a recommendation was made with all of the terms and conditions to the Minister of Finance.
Is there a reason for there being no advertisement of the position?
No, there are no reasons I can.
And you don't think this is a part of public transparency and accountability to advertise for such a position in a state agency? Do you think that is something that should be done as a matter of course when hiring at this type of position?
I can't speak to that in a general term. I cannot.
Was it an internal filled position from internally?
No, it wasn't. It's an external position. The Secretary of the Board, that position requires certain qualifications and experience. The position of Secretary to the Board was created.
So how were you able to get applications to even advertise?
There, on an ongoing basis, members of the public submit resumes and applications to NLCB on an ongoing basis. In addition, as part of the exercise, the board undertook an evaluation of recommended and referred candidates, and the candidate that was best considered for the position, both in terms of qualifications and experience, was retained.
Tell me something. What is the operations of the NLCB in Tobago?
The NLCB operations in Tobago is strictly to encash winnings and provide customer service to our Tobago clients.
So it's a small outfit.
Yes, Chairman.
Consists of how many staff members?
Consists of 2 staff members.
2 staff members. So, you know, national lotteries are used. The purpose when the national lottery was set up, yes? When the national lottery was set up, it was for what specific purpose? You can assist the public in understanding that. Why was the National Lotteries Control Board set up in the first place?
The National Lotteries Control Board was, Chairman, to set up to conduct games of chance and to provide customer service to the public of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, but what were the purposes? Was it generate revenue as a revenue source of
yes,
revenue?
It was to provide revenue to the government of Trinidad and Tobago, yes.
And given the challenges that we are faced as a country right now in terms of a decrease in revenue, or source of revenue, isn't NLCB a major revenue generator in the scheme of resources available to the government? Would it be considered to be a significant contributor to the resources of the government?
Yes, Chairman, yes, sir.
According to the chairman, he said it was about $2.9 billion industry. Revenue?
Yeah. Revenue.
That is profit, or that is just gross income? What is the net revenue?
For fiscal 16-17, we have remitted $306 million so far to the Treasury.
For which period?
Fiscal 16-17.
16-17. So you do that on an annual basis, or you do that on a
annual? It's our highest remittance in the history of the NLCB.
And how do you remit money to these special funds like the sports fund and cultural funds? That's on a what basis? Annual basis as well?
Again, I can have the Chief Accountant elaborate.
Yeah, could you please shed some light on that?
Chair, every month we send money down to the ministry, one to the sports and culture and one to the controller of accounts.
So it doesn't go to the Ministry of Finance to be redistributed?
It's sent to the controller of accounts, Ministry of Finance, and to the sports and culture fund.
Sorry? The controller of accounts?
Yes.
That and the percentage that you send, the contribution you make to the cultural and sports fund and the various funds, is it stipulated by the Act, or is it something determined by the board?
The percentage is 7% of sales goes to the sports and culture fund, and 93% goes to the controller of accounts.
Yeah, so I'm asking, is that set by statute, or is that a decision of the board?
That would have been a decision of the board.
Of the board?
Based on sales, yes.
And how much does it go to the consolidated fund?
For which period?
Generally speaking, what percentage goes to the consolidated fund? Is there a fixed amount that goes to the consolidated fund? Because it is provided
93% goes to the controller of accounts, yes. 93% goes to the controller of accounts, and 7% goes to the sports and culture.
Right. Now, I was looking at a number of lotteries run internationally, in particular, the one in the UK, where a special fund was set up to host the Olympics, and a certain amount of money was targeted. And it seemed that they not only reached that, but they probably surpassed that income by having, I think it was £1 or something, some special draw was set up. Does the NLCB envisage doing something like that to support our athletes moving towards 2020 Olympics?
Mr. Chairman, I think you're referring to the Camelot Group. They provided a significant amount of funding for the last Olympics. We at NLCB have an outreach strategy that targets various groups within Trinidad and Tobago. We have given to sports, education, youth, arts and culture, and community development. Our focus over the last 2 years has been to improve NLCB's profile in terms of its give back for good causes and in terms of its contribution to the society in general. So generally, yes, we are following the practices of the Camelot Group, and specifically we are treating with the kinds of good causes in Trinidad and Tobago that we can make active contributions towards.
I saw, I think, report, or is it in the act? I'm not sure. I've been reading so much information from you all that part of your outreach program, part of your responsibility is to deal with the environment as well, not so?
Not specifically with the environment.
I mean, among other things. But
among other things, yes.
Is that a policy I was reading, or is that the act?
It would be a policy position.
The policy position?
Yes.
So when you talk about the environment, what exactly envisaged by dealing with the environment? What do you mean by dealing with supporting the environment? What is that?
Well, the NLCB will respond to causes that would contribute positively to the sustainability of our environment. We treat each case on a case-by-case basis.
For example, you will have had a request in dealing Pacific. I just want to get an understanding.
Maybe I can ask Mr. Wheeler of our outreach coordinator to respond.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Chairman, based on our outreach policy, under the board, we have identified 5 pillars upon which NLCB's philanthropy stands. And those are namely, and they're surrounded by youth and the development of youth, but it also includes sport, culture, education, and community development. And I want to believe that it is through community development you may have reference in terms of environment, because we do assist the various communities.
Okay. Let me just vary back a bit in dealing with the licenses of those lotto machines and so. There are about how many you have in existence in the country?
We have licensed about 1,000 operators, NLCB licensed operators.
Now, those licenses are for what period of time?
The licensing is not for any specific period of time. What will happen is that we look at our agents on a yearly basis based on their performance. And then based on the performance, the board will make a decision to continue.
So there's no contract involved between...
There is a contract, yes, there is a contract involved with the...
This is what I'm asking. So,
yes, there's a contract.
So the contract itself doesn't have a term?
Not that I know of, no, sir. I don't think there's a term.
I have been privileged to have seen a contract of the National Lottery Board with an agent, which was outdated anyway. And I think it was for a period of a year, for a year or 2 years. So my question is that, is this a renewable, is this, these contracts renewed on an annual basis, on a year, or biannually, what?
Yes, the contracts are renewed.
So there is a contract?
There is a contract, yeah. All agents sign a contract with the NLCB, with the board. There must be a contract for you to engage and start selling our games.
So how do you determine who become an agent?
Well, there's a process in terms...
Is there a
application process,
yes.
yes.
Or something like that?
Yes, there is. And one of the things an agent must provide is that once they apply, we do an evaluation of the location by both the NLCB and our provider. And based on the evaluation of that location, the NLCB will make a concerted effort whether they want that operator to start selling their products. Right?
The operator pay a license fee or anything of that nature?
There is no payment of license fee right now. What the person has to satisfy, there are certain requirements in terms of a package, in terms of the ID, FIU requirements, if they are company secretary registered. There are a number of requirements that an applicant will have to satisfy before they become an agent.
So is it just companies or individuals?
There are individuals, right? They too will have to satisfy certain financial requirements too. We have also...
Like what? You need
well, we have certificate of character, yes. Bank statements, bank references. We now have KYC forms, know your customer forms. They have to satisfy AML, CFT policies. So there are a number of requirements that an applicant will have to satisfy before they become an agent.
I'll just quickly ask, does the NLCB see these individuals who gets the licenses as a business entity?
Yes, because, remember, They are a business entity because a lot of the agents already have businesses. Some already have businesses, and it's like an additional to their business. In fact, it's what our games do is provide more traffic into their business.
And does one license allow an individual or business entity to have many different locations, or for every location they have to get a new license?
Every location is a new license. It's a different location because there will be different requirements for different agents. And we have different types of agents too. So we have people with more than one agency, but each location is evaluated separately.
Is there a maximum limit that the NLCB has in place for an individual in terms of ownership or locations? In other words, you can't go above a certain amount because one person can monopolize the whole thing and decide that they have 1,000.
Well, there is no limit. We go it on a case by case. As a business, we look for the best location in terms of how we can grow our business. We look at the sales that can generate from the business. So once we have evaluated the location, and as I said, it's location, location, location. And once that can generate sales to the board, and they can provide all the different requirements, FIU, KYC requirements, the board would make a decision to approve.
So it is possible that an individual can monopolize in terms of licenses or locations. Because if it is I have enough money, then I could apply for as many licenses as I want and start moving into certain locations where there may not be an entity right now. So, for example, if I am in one place, is it that I can, or Senator Amin, can come and apply for that location or somewhere similar, or do you all have limits in that regard? I'm really asking in relation to monopolization, because it sounds as though that is possible under the regime that you have now.
Yes, it is possible, and the board will take a look at that, but as it is right now, there is really no monopolization of our locations, but it's a good idea in terms of what the board can look at in the future.
Yeah, for the information of the public, you spoke about cracking down on the illegal operators. Can you indicate to the public what, in terms of your procedures, we know the police would have a role to play. How does the NLCB treat with illegal operators, and at what point does the police step in?
Member, with respect to that question, we are presently engaged with the police attached to the Financial Investigative Bureau. And quite recently, arrests were made against certain illegal operators, which are identified by our service providers. So we have a geographic location of these alleged illegal operators. So it's an ongoing process. And the police would usually arrest these people that come by us at the NLCB for a statement. They will bring the machine for us to identify if it is one of ours or if it is something that we don't know about. And our online manager would give a statement, he would sign, and we may or may not have to appear in court.
I also want to know about the informal sector where the traditional wayman would still pay according to whatever NLCB machine plays. Do you have anything in place to, take action against the way operator that is still going but doesn't have a machine of their own?
Well, we have to rely on the police in that matter as well. We don't have anything legally in place except whatever the police helps us with.
Can I add, what we have done, we have shared with what Mr. Jogi is saying there, we have shared with the FIB branch of the FIU. We have done our research on certain illegal operators, and we have shared that information with them. And they now will carry out the investigation.
Yes. The Ministry of Finance would have indicated that they would have conducted an audit report in 2016. What is the status of that audit report? And what would have prompted the Ministry of Finance to conduct such a report? And let us know what the findings of the report is as well, if it's...
Chair, through you, the Ministry of Finance conducted a report, an audit in 2016, and it's currently being finalized. Preliminary results indicate that the internal controls of the NLCB are weak, and the few that they have are not being adhered to. I will put you on to my Director, Central Audit Committee, to give you some more details.
As she said, we conducted a report. The report is being reviewed at the present time. Because of certain situations, and I think you remember the live sport report, I would not want to divulge anything because we have not given the NLCB a chance to respond to our findings. So until that is done, I wouldn't want to divulge any part of the report because it could end us up into legal situations. So the report is being finalized. When it's done, we'd give NLC to report on comment, and then we'd produce a final report.
Could you indicate, though, what would have prompted the Ministry of Finance to do the report at least? What would have caused you to decide to do an audit report?
The ministry was informed of certain practices that were being carried out at NLCB that were not above board, and they asked us to investigate those practices.
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of make a statement in that regard. Well, so one of the first things that we would have heard is how well the NLCB has been doing by way of sales and the profits they would have generated. And then we're hearing on the other end that an audit report is being done to sort of, for lack of a better word, make it more efficient in terms of its internal controls. So I guess the statement I want to make is that going forward in the future, once the report is out and these internal controls are made better and more efficient, then we should expect to see an even better performance from the NLCB. So you've made money, given that these things are happening, so I expect that you can make more money once these things are corrected. Is that a good statement to make?
Certainly, member. I, as chairman of the board of directors, agree with you. We have been able over the last 49 years to move this organization from a humble, itinerant organization where vendors sold fractions and books to an organization that can have 4 draws during the course of the day with a network of 1,000 agents and generate close to $3 billion a year. We are extremely proud of the NLCB, the entire board and management, and we look forward to another 50 years of improved performance based upon the recommendations that may come out of here.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that statement. But, you know, we're coming to the end of this inquiry, yeah? But I must remind you, when I opened this inquiry earlier on, I said that, remind you of the objectives of the inquiry, one of which was to examine the internal control systems within the NLCB, right? Would you say that the internal controls are adequate in dealing with the best and in line with the best practices for internal auditing and controls within the NLCB?
I would say that they are inadequate at the,
inadequate
at the present time.
And what, if anything, can be done to make it, to bring it up to scratch, to bring it in line with what's the best practice? What would you say? What is your board thinking about?
Well, over the last 18 months, this board has been able to tighten the operations of NLCB. We still have some governance challenges, as you would have heard. We are part SASC, part corporate entity, part Ministry of Finance. CPO would drive our compensation. So we have some governance challenges going forward, which we are in fact addressing. We have developed our 2018-2020 strategic plan. Going into the future, we have some strategic imperatives that we have identified. So we look forward to improving on our performance with the feedback, as I said, that we would be receiving this morning from this committee.
No, that's not. Flowing from what you are saying here, now in any organization, a private enterprise, you have consistency in terms of management and how the company is run, right? Now, in terms of the NLCB, even though it's a corporate, statutory corporation, yet still the management and the board itself is affected by political decisions. Is that a given? What effect, if any, the change of government has on the efficiency, the efficient management of the NLCB? I don't know if you are in a position, because you are just newly appointed, I don't know if a more deputy, the person like the CEO or somebody that is a better fixture, so to speak, in the organization can answer that, to give what is the impact, if any, change of government has on the efficiency of the NLCB.
Yeah, it's a big change because with the appointment of every new board, and as you said, the boards are politically appointed, there are new policies by each board. I think what this board is trying to do is that to drive a strategic plan so that there is whether this board comes in, another board comes in, there is one plan under one governance issue, because the real challenges there are governance issues at the NLCB, whereby you have remuneration, terms and conditions of leave service under LASCSA, contract, temporary, service providers. So the real challenge there is really trying to govern all four entities under one board. The board doesn't have control over everyone. The board doesn't have a control over the LASCSA workers. That comes under the statutory board, CPO. The board has control over the ones that contract, and that is also comes through the Ministry of Finance. So there are many challenges that we are facing right now, but yet we still try to deal with those challenges in a way where it's more equitable for everyone, but everyone doesn't have the same terms and conditions. So it's really a difficult situation for the board to, but this board is making a concerted effort in the last 2 years to ensure that they do what they can do best.
Thank you very much. Ms. Amin?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I want to very quickly ask about, the whole issue of foreign exchange and the role that NLCB would play in terms of its use of US dollars. I know that some years ago, when the whole online game was established, there was a service provider, that provided the technology, and it was supposed to have been transferred to the NLCB after some years, but I'm not aware of any public advertisement for tender or anything like that for a local provider to provide that technology to allow local operators to do the online games. So it means that NLCB still pays a percentage of its revenue to this foreign provider of the online games technology, and it is a significant amount. It is, from what I assess here, at least about 200 million TT dollars that you would have had leaving the shores of Trinidad and Tobago in US dollars to be paid for a service that since in the 1990s you would have engaged in that service for the technology, and at some point it was supposed to be transferred or publicly advertised for local service providers, and we do have many companies in Trinidad and Tobago who can in fact provide the technology. Can you indicate to the committee if you have any steps in place to engage local service providers for this, for the online games, so that you would cut down on the US dollars that you would spend for this overseas service provider?
Remember, there are no local providers that do our online games. They are all foreign providers. IGT is our present provider, and there's a contract with the IGD that was signed by the previous board for a certain number of years. The money is paid in TT dollars because they have a complement of Trinidad staff in Trinidad, so no money is really, no foreign exchange is sent to the US. It's all paid in TT dollars. They have their bank in Trinidad, so they are in Trinidad for the last 23 years, and the previous board would have signed a contract with this provider that this board has to continue until the end of that contract. What this board is trying to do, and again it comes down to governance, is try to do a transfer of knowledge, of some of the knowledge, to our local staff, which we have been successfully able to do in the last 2 years.
Have you ever advertised, has the board ever, whether this current board or at all, ever advertised to locally for this service? Or made any such attempt?
No, as I remember, as I told you just now, there is a contract, yeah, and we haven't reached a stage in the contract where we will be now able to advertise.
Up to what period is this contract?
The contract is for review in 2021 with the option.
Thank you.
The chairman to make any closing remarks you want, having participated in this inquiry this morning. I think it has been a healthy one thus far. I'm a bit enlightened, a bit disappointed, but I'll invite you to give your closing remarks to us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for giving me this opportunity. And the Board of Directors and management and staff of NLCB appreciates the opportunity. We do have our challenges. We appreciate the insightful comments of the committee. We are a focused organization dedicated to improving our performance levels. And going forward, we expect to surpass some of the achievements of 2016-2017. And to state in closing that pound for pound, the National Lotteries Control Board has been the most successful indigenous organization for the past 49 years. And we look forward to being even more successful for the next 50 years. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Phillips.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the Ministry of Finance, I wish to again thank the Joint Select Committee for the invitation to participate in this inquiry and to be accountable to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The Ministry will continue to support the National Lotteries Control Board in its efforts to become more efficient, effective, and transparent in its operations, taking account the recommendations of this committee. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jogi.
Thank you, Chair. I wish to thank the Chair and members of the committee for giving the NLCB the opportunity to be present here today, to be questioned. I have learned a lot, and I also wish to thank both management and members of the board of directors of the NLCB. I also wish to thank the members of the public for partaking in the games that the NLCB has to offer, and I wish and I hope that they continue to support us in the near future so that we'll be even more successful next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And on behalf of the other members and myself, I would like to thank you for participating in this important inquiry this morning. I would like to thank the viewing public who would have listened to us and make it truly a public inquiry. The National Lottery Control Board is a very critical revenue stream in our country. And in these difficult financial times, I think it can continue to play a significant role in providing some source of revenue to assist the government in its expenditure, and by extension, the population of Trinidad and Tobago. Clearly, from this morning's discussion, it's seen that there's some bit of tightening in terms of internal controls where the audit committee, I hope, will come on stream very shortly, like yesterday, because it's a critical part in dealing with an organization that is producing such high volumes of cash, right, that it is used wisely, especially in these lean times. And that people will have growing confidence in the industry that it is being managed with the best that is available. Obviously, what I've seen in terms of the salaries that you all have provided, I think it is woefully inadequate to attract really, really significant and competent people to really discharge the functions that's required and to keep this lean and a very efficient and a gift that keeps giving type of organization. I know you all have challenges. I know through the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Finance, that they can look at avenues, and we need creativity and innovation, how to deal with these statutory limitations, which, I mean, we all know, is no secret. Getting salaries increased through the CPO takes years, and sometimes it seems like it's never ending. I know this is why sometimes contract workers came about to sort of circumvent that, but also that leads to a certain type of abuse and mischief. But we must find creative ways in bringing our salaries appropriately to the level that will attract good people like the private sectors will be able to. Otherwise, we will be. I mean, it makes no sense. You have a significant industrialized with such high volumes of potential, such good potential and volumes in terms of money that can be made, and yet you're not being able to get the right people the best people to manage it in an efficient way. And if you do attract them, you cannot keep them. It must be addressed. And I think that is a critical problem that I have discovered this morning that the NLCB is encountering. And it's certainly not a problem that started yesterday or through this board or through the next board. It's something that needs to be revised since 1968. We must find a way to deal with that. Having said all of that, I want to thank you all for the services you are providing, and we look forward to your continued service, the commitment, because in public service, money is never really sufficient to justify the type of responsibilities. And then, of course, I mean, when you're in the public eye, there's a lot of scrutiny because they deal with the public purse, you know, and I know the Permanent Secretary under the various regulations are personally responsible for any discrepancies and so forth that transpire. A lot of people don't be aware of that, but that is a significant responsibility because it's personally, not very many people are held personally to account in the public service, but Permanent Secretaries are. I have a few announcements to be made. The announcement is that the public is advised that the committee's report on its inquiry into the regulations and licensing of the medical doctors by the Medical Board of Trinidad and Tobago is available for review on the Parliament website, www.ttparliament.org. Some of the issues addressed in the reports are as follows: the failure of the Medical Board to implement a register of medical specialists, doctors practicing medicine without renewing their licenses, the absence of a malpractice register, the continuous medical education, CME for doctors, the lack of training available to doctors in specialized areas of medicine, and the shortage of forensic pathologists. At this point in time, I'd like to thank all again, and I bring this inquiry to an adjournment. Thank you very much.